True horror stories that will haunt you forever. Welcome. Tonight, you're not just here to listen. You're here to feel the chill of real fear. These are not tales made to entertain. These are true accounts, shared by real people who lived through moments that defy logic and shake the soul. As the fire crackles and shadows dance on the walls, sit back, but don't relax too much. Because the next voice you hear might be your own, whispering in the dark. Let's begin. You're about to hear some of the most terrifying, true, and authentic stories about the woods in New Jersey. These tales weren't written in some dark writer's room. They were lived, experienced, and then shared by real people. So turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. And prepare yourself. This is Most Terrifying True Authentic Stories About the Woods in New Jersey. You've been warned. December 21st, 1998. Not just a cold night, but apparently the darkest day of the year. I say this because it was the first topic of discussion during dinner with my mother and sister. My father was a very stringent person. Things needed to be punctual in every aspect. My mother, on the other hand, was the opposite, not in a lack of responsibility, but more like a enjoy life, love, and live every day as a gift, be grateful, kind of way. These two people, my parents, got divorced the year before. A stressful, heartbreaking, and confused time for my mother. The present days that followed included only my sister and my mother. Now I'm sure you're aware, but after a divorce or breakup there's pain, darkness, hurt, and anxiety. This energy filled the walls of our house. I know this because every time I walked in my house from school, playing, etc., I just felt this hole inside of me of pain that I never felt before. But then again, there was also a feeling of solace which I guess you can say balanced each other out, good and bad emotions. The clock hits around 8 p.m. My sister is in her room with her friend Christina. My mom is just cleaning up dinner and getting ready to head to bed. I'm sitting on the couch and just immediately I get a rush of exhaustion. I then decide to head up to bed and decide to fall asleep. Not only did I decide this, but I felt like my bed was calling me, because when I entered my bed a warm sensation came over me as if I needed to be there at that moment. Now when you fall asleep at age 10, and don't have any real-life crisis, stress, or responsibilities, you kind of just let go differently as opposed to when you're an adult. I feel the need to say this without explaining anything. The next conscious action that my awake mind remembers is the wolf creature. Now I'm sure you have experienced sleep paralysis, black shadows controlling you. Sweating, can't move. Now I will try to explain this experience as best as I can. As soon as I become conscious, this thing was already in control of me. Not only did I have a visual of how this creature was latched onto me, but I could 100% accurately was aware of its location from the beginning. Its location was the dirt circle in the woods. Now, I'm sure I'll talk about what's in these woods that include old silos, brick agriculture lots, barbed wire fences that protect nothing in the near future, but what was weird is 3 days before this incident I was playing in this dirt circle, as my goal was to make a fort in it. Now back to me, sleeping, in my bed this night. From the first 10 seconds of this awareness I will tell you that I have never felt so much fear in my entire life. Still to this day. This creature, in my mind, moved at a pace as if it was getting magnetized to my soul. What paralyzed me the most was its legs. Not only that, but it was the way they moved. It was like a spider. As I'm having this experience I noticed I am physically paralyzed. I also realize that I'm aware that I'm awake. I say this because my mother always loved to watch Saturday Night Live. I remember hearing the characters on SNL doing their skit from the echo of my stairs to the family room. Slowly, inch by inch, this creature is getting closer and closer. It's connected to me. I'm going to describe this thing as best as I can. The power that this thing had convinced me that it was in charge spiritually of a huge amount of energy. My sense of fear to it gave me the feeling that it was the most powerful presence. The feeling of mercy flown through my blood, like whatever I tried to do to fight back was worthless. After that I remember dreaming of looking and walking through my house in a third-person view. Now I can't describe this, but everything. My house, the floors, the walls, it was like stuck back in time where I felt the most dark, evil, and depressing feeling that I ever felt. I remember feeling that my mother, my sister, my entire family abandoned me. It wasn't that they just abandoned me, but I felt the feeling that they were dead. In fact, I felt the feeling that everyone was dead, gone. My neighbors, my friends. Everything was dead. The next thing that I remember in my unconscious mind was the creature. Although this time, I realized the creature made its way to the back door of my house. My next conscious visual is hearing the sound of my house alarm going off and my mother and sister yelling at me saying, "James, stop. You're going to hurt yourself. What are you doing?" Apparently I was on my living room floor. I don't want to talk about what they said I was physically doing, but I do remember them saying that I was sleepwalking while panicking to lock all the doors, whole hyperventilating and sweating. To this day, I can still remember this creature. It was like as its legs walked closer and closer to my house, I could feel the fear get stronger and stronger. Our next story takes us deep into the forest, where silence hides more than just trees. This one is titled, Strange Encounter in the Woods. And trust me, it's anything but ordinary. I live near a patch of woods, not far from a few camping sites. There's an old basketball court close by, stone floor, 2 rusty hoops that barely stay up. It's pretty busted, but it's still our go-to spot when my friends and I want to hang out. It was a warm day last summer. We headed out to play some basketball, mess around, and just chill. Everything was normal at first, just us fucking around. Then we heard barking. It wasn't loud at first, but it felt off. Like, the pitch kept changing. Sometimes it sounded close, sometimes super far away. Almost like it was moving around fast. My friends shrugged it off, some dog from one of the campsites nearby. I didn't say much. Didn't want to seem weird for being creeped out by a dog. We kept playing. About 10 minutes later, I missed a shot pretty bad, and the ball bounced off deep into the woods. Of course, they made me go grab it since I was the one who messed up. As I walked toward it, something felt off. I couldn't explain why, just had that tight feeling in my gut. Like I shouldn't be there. The barking kicked in again, this time louder, like it was really close. Still, I didn't want to make a big deal, so I kept going. I bent down to pick up the ball, and that's when it hit me, this sharp pain in my palm out of nowhere. Almost like my body was screaming at me to get out. I grabbed the ball and ran back, hand throbbing like crazy. I told my friends I was done for the day, that my hand hurt too much to play. They asked what happened, but I just said I didn't know. They kept playing and I sat off to the side, trying to chill out, hoping the pain would go away. After a while, the barking stopped. Things went quiet. Then I realized I had to pee, like really bad. Asked if they wanted to go home yet, but they said no, they were still having fun. So I walked behind the court, deeper into the woods where they couldn't see me, and relieved myself. That's when things got creepy again. I felt like someone was watching me. Not just nearby, right there, like behind a tree or something. It was quiet, too quiet. Then, as I started walking back, the barking started again. This time it was loud and it honestly felt like it was right behind me. My hand started hurting again, even worse than before. I ran back and told my friends I had to leave, made up some excuse about needing to help my mom. As soon as I got farther from the woods, everything started to feel normal again. Pain faded, barking stopped. I never really talked about it. Figured no one would believe me or they'd just laugh it off. But something happened that day and it still messes with me a little. I don't know what it was. My best guess is a skinwalker. What happens when an innocent game turns into a terrifying encounter with the unknown? This next story is called Spirit of Coin, Yes/No, Home, and it's a chilling reminder that sometimes, the answers we seek, aren't meant to be found. This happened when I was 15 and I still don't have a proper explanation for it. Nobody is. In my school this so-called spirit of the coin was a thing, you know, the one where you draw yes and no on a piece of paper, put the coin in the middle and everyone lightly touches it while asking spirits to come with a mantra which I will not mention that because it's dangerous lol. We did it during recess in an empty classroom, no teachers, no other students. Okay, there were 4 of us, all girls. It was just supposed to be a joke and out of curiosity for asking dumb questions like, who is Mel next boyfriend? Or what will happen tomorrow? Something like that, just as simple questions or random. At first, nothing happened, we laughed and being fun it's enjoying, but after a while, the coin started moving, we keep pointing at each other that it was one of us who moved the coin lol. We all swore we weren't pushing it. The coin spelled out a name by moving the coin to every alphabet, if I'm still remember it's like, Kinnock or Ninal. It was long ago, I don't quite remember. Then one of my friends asked, how you die? The coin spelled out, fell, hill, and then it moved back to yes. One of my friend gets sick, she look pale and she accidentally pull her finger off the coin. I was so mad and asked her to put back her finger to the coin. Thing is suddenly it felt chills and the room gets dark. We ended the game after few questions but it didn't go back home, it moved to no, but then I asked the others, push the coin and forced to back home and we flipped the coin, said goodbye the way you're supposed to. That one friend I mentioned before gone pale and sick, she got possessed, her eyes staring at the corner wall, her fingers all froze very hard and she looked scared like about to get killed by someone. This is when she back home that day. After that her parents sent her to hospital, the doctor couldn't find a specific illness she's having. Back home again, she looked normal and the next day he tried to jump in the river, her house is next to the river, then her parents took her to the church for blessing releasing the evil soul but couldn't undo that night she gone insane smashing all the things in the house and tried to cut herself. And her parents saw 2 shadows of her while she was sitting on the ground, they were shocked and quickly called someone to help, something dark that fight with dark. She is saved. Over the next few days, I kept waking up at 2 a.m. always that exact time. I hear whispering. Once I even heard my name clear as day from inside my mirror. I'm so scared the next day I bought a new mirror lol and threw the old one. But things keep happening. One night, I had a dream, or maybe it wasn't a dream. I saw a girl with a bruised neck standing at the side of my closet. She just stood there watching me, I couldn't move and I couldn't even blink, she looked like she was crying. I never played the game again, ever, and none of us should touch that game. No joke, it could take one's life. But I still feel her sometimes. Like someone watching me when I'm alone, like a breath on the back of my neck when no one's there. Or you could feel if someone stare at you, talking about the other 2 friends they seems o.k, at least they don't get attacked by evil soul. If any of you ever play this or might play, fun but risky, my advice don't. You will regret fr. Unless you want to die at your age now. Some dreams are too vivid to ignore. But what if your dream doesn't just come true once, but twice? This next true story is titled, Premonition Dream Came True. Twice. And it might make you question what's real, and what warnings were given while we sleep. This story includes non-graphic descriptions of a dream involving injured and dying dogs. I wanted to tell this story on here because I recently told it to a coworker when we were discussing our belief in the paranormal. When I was retelling it, her reaction and the events I remembered were enough to at least jot it down for future reference. Anyway, this happened about 2 years ago during a music festival in Chicago. My friends like to call me the Venmo friend, which means that I am not involved at all in planning the trips, they make all the decisions and just Venmo request me for my half of the total. I honestly love it because I get really stressed planning trips. I much prefer when I can just sit back, enjoy the awesome excursions, and go along for the ride. My two friends do their research very thoroughly, too, so I never doubt or disagree with the stuff they plan. My travel credo is that if you took no part in planning it, you have no say in adjusting it. That's why I'm very go with the flow on vacation, as I really don't want to be that annoying friend who didn't help plan, but complains about the activities chosen. Anyway, that's the context. I have gone on about 3 to 4 trips with these two friends before this one. We were staying at a famous hotel across the street from the music festival. My friends waited until we were unpacking our suitcases in the 2-bed hotel room to tell me the truth. The reason we got such a good deal on a hotel so close to the venue was because it was haunted. Like famously haunted. Not only were we staying in a haunted hotel, but we were staying on the haunted floor about 2 doors down from the haunted room. When they told me this, they played it off as, "We got the room for cheap though, and it's so close." I didn't really push the issue since, 1, if I had no part in planning the trip, can I really complain? 2, it wasn't the room we were in which was haunted, and 3, I didn't want to harsh the party festival vibe. My friends and I were staying in the hotel for the entire 4-day festival starting on Thursday. The first night went well. I love music festivals. But we were really tired because of jet lag and general going out fun, so we all slept like crazy that night. That's when the paranormal shit started. Keep in mind, I have never had paranormal encounters or premonitions of any kind before this. The first night I had a premonition dream, but at the time I thought it was a random silly one. In the dream my friends and I were eating buffalo wings in front of a restaurant I didn't recognize. There was a 4th person in our group while we lingered around the front of the restaurant eating the wings. I didn't recognize them, but we were all talking to them like we were friends, and then I woke up. Silly dream, right? Anyway, later that day at the music festival, one of my friends introduced me to her coworker who was also at the festival. It was the person in my dream. The 4th person in our group eating wings in my dream, their pronouns are they/them. They had the exact same face I saw in my dream the night before. Keep in mind I've never met this person and my friend never described this person to me. It made our greeting a little awkward cause the whole time I said hello and we spoke about the festival I had these thoughts swirling in my head. They were in my dream, right? Why were they in my dream? Maybe it wasn't them. But it looked exactly like them. Should I tell them? No, that's weird. Does this mean we're gonna get the buffalo wings tonight like in my dream? Should I tell them? I decided not to tell them because I didn't want to sound weird in front of this new person I just met and my two friends. Then later that night, guess where we went for dinner? Keep in mind, I didn't suggest wings or any restaurant because even though I do like wings, I kinda forgot about the dream by then. The coworker friend actually suggested the place and we went there early in the night to eat before we went out drinking. Everything happened like in my dream. Our group, including the new person, got wings and ate outside of the restaurant cause there weren't enough seats inside. We ate standing on the sidewalk right outside of the restaurant just like in my dream. I can't remember too clearly because this was years ago, but I think we even had a snippet of conversation that was in my dream. The night went well and we went out to some bars in Chicago, first time taking the CTA, like the MTA in New York, so we got very lost. I thought the whole situation was odd, but I was glad that I didn't tell anyone about my dream. It was so inconsequential that even if they did believe me it wouldn't have mattered much. So I went about the rest of the night out, blissfully hoping that that was the end of it. It was not. That night we rolled into the hotel pretty late and went to bed around 4 a.m. because that's when the last bar closed. I had my second premonition dream. For context, I don't usually remember my dreams, and even on the rare occasions that I do, they are never as odd as these two were. I remember both of these dreams vividly. The dream opens and I'm on a road that loops around a hill. I've never seen this place before, but it looks like a generic backroad with foliage on either side. There's grass on both sides of me as I stand in the middle of the road in the pitch black darkness. No cars are driving past as I walk in the middle of the road forward up the hill. The only thing providing light is a series of street lamps that are projecting glowing halos on the ground. As I walk, I'm passing through the circles of light on the road. I hope that I'm describing this scene well enough to portray how ominously still and uneasy this environment was. Even though I was in a rural-ish area, there was no sound of leaves blowing in the wind or bugs. Just the sound of my footsteps. Eventually, as I walked, I noticed 3 dogs were walking beside me. A larger dog that came up to my knee, the mother dog, and her 2 smaller puppies trailing behind her. The dogs were jet black with mangy hair. They all looked really rough, like they had gotten into a fight with hair matted in blood and scratches. I felt so sad looking at them, but for some reason I couldn't stop walking forward in my dream to help them. They trotted along with me for a bit in the dream until the scene in front of us changed. It was a small change, but I instantly felt frozen with fear. My feet finally stopped as I stared at the street lamp ahead of me. As I stood in the normal light halo of the street lamp, there was a street lamp with red light that seemed to materialize. I didn't see it up ahead as I was walking, and you could definitely see future street lamps from my vantage point. This one was bright red. It shone a red circle on the ground, and the color was so eerily vibrant. Not something a red light bulb could produce, but an unusually vivid blood red color of light in a halo shape on the ground. When I saw it, my survival instincts immediately told me, don't go in the red circle. In the dream I knew that I couldn't go around the circle, so I stood stock still staring at the red light circle. To my horror, the dogs didn't stop walking. The 2 puppies walked into the red circle ahead of the mother, who looked back at me with the saddest look I've ever seen on a dog. It was in that moment that I questioned if that was my inner voice that told me not to go into the circle, or the mother dog psychically telling me not to go there, warning me. She turned back around and walked into the circle. It seemed like between the time it took me to blink, the scene completely changed. I was suddenly in a city alleyway or street, I don't really remember. I wasn't on a back road anymore, as the scene's ground had changed into city streets. The dogs lay dead on the street, bleeding and dirty. The mother dog next to the puppies lined up like dominoes, lying on their sides like someone had put them there for me to see. Bathed in red light. It was such a horrendously gruesome sight that I jolted awake. Thoughts rushed into my brain as I breathed heavily, trying to calm down and not wake up my friends who were in the hotel bed next to me. I went to the bathroom to think through the dream and get it together. I felt horrible for the dogs, and I was a little disgusted with myself for imagining such a sad situation with dogs in it. I love animals and I would never want harm to come to them, so I felt a bit disturbed by my own dream. Then the thought hit me, is this dream going to happen like the other one? They both felt unusually vivid and real looking, so my brain immediately started mulling over what that connection meant. If my last dream happened, why wouldn't this one? I was so freaked out that I finally told my 2 friends about the first dream in the morning, the buffalo wing one, not the dog one. The dog one was still too fresh. When I told my friends, they admitted that they had been having some weird, possibly paranormal, experiences too. I want to change names, so I'll call them Daisy and Lily. Daisy told me that she had been feeling oddly cold in the hotel room at times, even though the old AC in there barely kept the room bearable in the summer heat. Lily said she had been hearing weird noises, but wrote it off as an old hotel filled with rowdy festival guests. I have a feeling that Lily didn't want to believe that we were all experiencing some weird things in the hotel. Daisy was a little more willing to talk about my dream, especially because it was her friend, the coworker, who I dreamed about before I actually met them in the first dream. I really debated telling them about the dog dream, but to be honest, I hated the feeling it gave me even thinking about it, and I didn't want to dampen the fun vacation vibes. So the night rolls around and we go out to bar hop again after the festival, without the new person this time. It was just me, Daisy and Lily. 3 people. I had mostly forgotten about the dream, choosing to focus on the amazing music artists that we had seen and all the fun we were having. My friends and I travel very well together. We're smart and safe when it comes to sticking together, having personal protection and generally being aware. I don't remember the night entirely because we were drinking. But we always stayed in each other's eyesight as we mingled with people in bars. As we strolled down the street to the next place, I got this weird feeling. Then I looked up and saw that one of the street lamps was making a halo of light on the ground. It wasn't red, but I stopped walking as the details of the dream rushed back to me. My friends asked why I was suddenly so serious as we had been happily blabbing a minute ago. I wasn't really in the headspace to rehash my dream right then. Nor was I seeing a red light, so I kept the details to myself, brushing it off, saying I was tired. We continued to the next club as my two friends chatted and I walked a bit behind them nervously. I was now super vigilant, looking around like a red street lamp was gonna pop out at me. Some more context for this next part: none of us are from Chicago. Like I mentioned before, I'm the Venmo friend, so I didn't help in choosing the bars that we were going to, and my friends were relying purely on word-of-mouth recommendations or reviews online to find places. All the spots we had hit so far were super fun because my friends are very skilled at planning stuff. That's why when we rolled up to the club I had no idea that the neon sign outside of it was red, projecting a bright red light onto the ground. It wasn't a perfect circle like in my dream, but that didn't stop me from connecting the dots. I stopped again and told my friends to stop too. They looked back at me confused and, understandably, a little annoyed as they wanted to get in line for the club. It was late and this was one of the few bars/clubs still open, and we just spent all that time walking to it. But my feet stayed planted. When we talked I told them how I had a bad feeling about the bar and I couldn't explain why. I'm usually the go-with-the-flow girl, as I know I didn't help plan things, so I have little right to criticize the places my friends pick. And I usually adore the places my friends pick. Not this time. We were definitely not splitting up, but my friends really wanted to go in as we were literally right outside of the club and it looked cool. Since I couldn't explain my reasoning why I didn't want to go in and splitting up was not an option as it was very late at night, I went into the club with them. They walked in first before I reluctantly trudged into the place. I was keeping to myself and not socializing too much, choosing to stick by my friends rather than explore the admittedly cool-looking space. We ended up leaving the place soon, thank God, as it was really crowded and the vibe was not it. I didn't even say that, I think Lily did, but I quickly agreed and we left for another place that was close by. This next club had a much better energy and the rest of the night went on without a hitch. To this day, I don't know if I ever told my friends about the dog dream. I really don't like talking about that dream, so I haven't asked them. So that's my story. Nothing happened at the bar with the red sign, which I am extremely happy about, and I haven't had any premonition dreams since. The fact that I had 2 in a row is still wild to me. Please leave your thoughts or theories below and remember to be kind to one another. Be aware of your surroundings. Never split up. If you arrive together, leave together. Every town has that one bar, the kind with stories soaked into the wood of the counter. But what happens when one of those stories follows you home? This next tale is called Old Man at the Bar, Repost and Update. It's a true encounter, recently revisited by the person who lived through it. And what he remembered this time changes everything. Friday. I work as a bartender in a bar/restaurant. Tonight at work I have a very strange old man come in for a drink. As soon as he sat down I had a bad feeling about him. He ordered a beer and started talking about his day and whatnot. He said he's from the area, but moved to the state capital back in the 70s or 80s, and that he visits for 1 week every July. The conversation was normal for about 10 minutes, he'd continued by telling me about his family and what it was like growing up here. After the conversation had finished he pulled out envelopes with stacks of photos in them. My gut was telling me the photos were something bad, but I'd hoped it was just photos from his trips. The first one was an AI-generated photo of a cat on a surfboard, but after that all the other ones were of young women. The photos were all AI-generated and all the women in the photos he was showing me were celebrities wearing a typical Daisy Duke outfit. I tried to be friendly and told him how crazy it is that the internet can make these photos of celebrities look so real. At one point he did show me a picture of a real lady that he watches on YouTube, but it was similar to the other photos. She was wearing tiny shorts bent over the engine of her truck. At this point the cooks were leaving for the night and I was the only employee left in the building. The owner was in the office working on paperwork. I went back to let my boss know that I was getting a really weird vibe from the guy. He agreed, saying the cooks were talking about him and a coworker had talked to the old man the previous night, outside of work. He thanked me for letting him know, asked me to get him if anything else happens, and I went back to work. He shuffled through his photos again looking for some to show me, but let me know he couldn't show me any because the women were only wearing their panties or nothing at all. I tried to avoid the guy after that, but there were only a few other patrons in the building and they were all sitting at tables. I went to do some cleaning behind the bar and he started talking about the girl from YouTube and how young and pretty she is. He pointed out that she looks like a teenager and that's why he liked her videos so much, but told me she in her 30s. As a woman similar in age and looks, this made me extremely uncomfortable. I ignored the comments about her and he started talking about his family again. I was responding with bare minimum responses, just trying to make it to close in 15 minutes. All the patrons had left at this point except him, and I let him know we would be closing very soon and he should start gathering his things. Instead of picking up his photos he said something about why he moved to the state capital. I was barely listening at this point, until he said he was told to leave the city. I didn't say anything or ask about it, but he continued saying the county court had him sent away all those years ago. At this point I'm about to just tell the owner to kick him out when he starts talking about why he was sent there. It was a story of how he did something breast-related to a girl in elementary school. I'm not very good at guessing people's ages, but there's no was this man was in elementary school in the 70-80s. He said the girl told the teacher on him even though it didn't happen, but no one believed him, so he got sent away. He said he was resentful towards this girl for many years until he heard she has special needs and isn't mentally capable of making up a lie like that. I was dumbfounded. I couldn't tell if he was saying he did it or if he was implying the teacher was the one lying. We were closing in like 2 minutes at this point, so I tried to wrap up his conversation by telling him I hope his trip was nice and to have a safe trip home. He slowly packed his things and I walked around the bar to the tables by the front door to lock it after he left. He walked towards the door, slower than I've ever seen anyone walk, and he'd always walk towards me even if I was standing away from the door. I was terrified at this point, so I called my husband and put my phone in my pocket in case something happened. At that moment the owner turned half the lights off and walked to me. I politely told the man he has to leave now and again said I hope he has a safe trip. As he opened the door to leave he turned back around, made eye contact with me, which he hadn't done the whole time he was there, and said, "I'll probably be back in tomorrow to see you. I don't leave town until Sunday." Update. Saturday. I went into work tonight and immediately told my coworkers of the encounter. We were all joking around about the man, and at one point I told them, if he does come back in I'm going to card him just to get his name, so I can do a Google search on him. I wanted to know if he was just creepy or if there was a legit reason my gut wasn't sitting right about him. My coworker, who had talked to him outside of work, interjected telling us his first name. The rest of the night went by smooth and the old man hadn't come back. Some male coworkers walked all of the women out to their cars, just to make sure they left safe, in case he was lingering outside. When I got home, I spent an hour or so searching for this man online. I'd look at mugshots for all the men who shared his first name. I eventually found him and my heart dropped. I clicked on his mugshot and was met with an article about a murder that had occurred in the 90s. In the article it stated he was the prime suspect in the murder. The only DNA evidence police had found was linked to him. He was sent to prison, and after investigations revealed his mental state, they did another round of testing on the DNA. The second round came up saying he wasn't the killer, so he got released. I then found a handful of Reddit posts, from the state capital, about the old man. He's somewhat famous in the area for creeping out young women at their workplaces. The stories were all eerily similar to mine and even happened to mothers in their teen and now their teen daughters. I learned that a majority of the people strongly believe this man was guilty of the murder, and after everything I had read I believe it too. I had an overwhelming sense that I should not have engaged with this man as much as I had, and I shouldn't have been polite. I've only been able to sleep a few hours the past few nights. I'm not necessarily scared of him, but I can't stop thinking about these teen girls who see him regularly. I had the one encounter and it shook me to my core. I hope I never meet this man again. Some things only come out when the world is asleep. And some voices? They don't want to be heard by many, just by you. The next story is called The Night Whisperer. It's a chilling account of what happens when a voice in the darkness starts calling your name. This past summer, my girlfriend and I were joining my family in Cape Cod for a week-long vacation. If you've ever been to Cape Cod, you might know how thickly wooded and thickly settled it is. There are either trees or houses lining every portion of the roads. And the roads, they're narrow enough to make you want to drive a carriage rather than a car. Altogether, this gave you the feeling that you were very isolated from the nearby town. By the time we noticed that we arrived at the Airbnb, we almost drove past it. It's a simple, older full-family home. The front of the house was somewhat plain, with a small front yard and a gravel driveway. Although the Airbnb was on the expensive side, we split the cost in the house with 6 couples/siblings, making it affordable for everyone. When my girlfriend and I arrived at the house, we immediately explored it. The original structure of the house was from the early 1800s, but had a modern extension to it. In the modern extension, there were 2 floors, with a living room, bedroom, bathroom, and kitchen on the first floor, and 3 bedrooms and a bathroom on the second floor. Through a sliding glass door in the kitchen was a sunroom with huge, beautiful, slanted windows facing the backyard, and a dining table that was perfect for eating breakfast and playing games. On the other side of the sunroom was another sliding glass door that led into the 1800s portion of the house. This portion was 1 floor with a bathroom, 2 bedrooms, and a small living area. The best part of the house was the backyard. We specifically chose this house so that our dog could run around the backyard without anyone needing to watch him constantly. There was a short fence that encompassed the backyard, with a gate facing our driveway, and a second gate facing the neighbor's long driveway, as their house was set far back from ours. There was also a huge tree, which must have been decades old, providing nice shade. A nice-sized patio stretched out from the back kitchen door and in front of the sunroom, with a small sitting area. Finally, there was a fire pit with some stumps to be used as seats. Overall, this house was a great place for the whole family to spend time at, gathering from their respective rentals for the week to spend time together. Being the first to arrive at the house, my girlfriend and I selected the nicest room for my parents, the large bedroom on the second floor of the modern portion of the house, and the second nicest room for ourselves, the bedroom on the first floor of the modern portion of the house. My brothers and their girlfriend stayed in the other 2 rooms on the second floor of the modern portion of the house, and my aunt and uncle and their 2 children took the 2 bedrooms on the first floor in the older portion of the house. We noticed that it felt a bit stuffy, so we went through the house and opened all the windows to let it air out. Being on the Cape, we left the windows cracked during the evenings and overnight to feel the cool Cape breeze while we slept. On the first evening around 9 p.m., my brother and his girlfriend were relaxing in their room. My brother suddenly heard whispers coming from outside the window, but his girlfriend didn't hear anything. These whispers persisted for the next several nights, always around the same time. Each time, my brother heard it but his girlfriend hadn't. One morning he shared what he heard with the family, but none of us had heard anything. On our second to last night at the Cape, the entire family, about 30 people, gathered at the house for a campfire and s'mores. We started telling family stories while my brother and his girlfriend took their regular evening walk. Suddenly, my brother's girlfriend came running to the backyard and told me that my brother needed me. I immediately followed her, afraid that something was wrong. I followed her through the house to the main road and back to where they had stopped in their walk. Just up the road, past the neighbor's driveway, I found my brother eagerly waiting for me. He said, "I finally found the guy who has been whispering. He's just up the road. You can see him shuffling back and forth down the road." I peered down the road, but could barely make him out with the lack of street lights in the pitch dark of night. As the time went by, I could clearly see the unknown being when he stepped under a street lamp, but then he would fade back to the darkness as he continued shuffling. I could hear very faint, but constant, whispering coming from his direction. At this point, my brother wanted to confront him, but I talked him down because we didn't know who this unknown being was or what he might do if confronted. As I said that, the unknown being shuffled out from under the last street lamp on a dead-end road, and back into the darkness. The only thing at the end of the road was a small forest, so he would need to come back towards us at some point. I looked at my brother and said, "He's going to come back this way." No sooner did I finish my sentence than he reappeared, still slowly shuffling back and forth towards us. I told my brother, "We need to get back to the house now." The three of us, me, my brother, and his girlfriend, briskly walked back to the house, where we could still see the family gathered around the campfire. Still alarmed, we walked quickly through the house and directly to the side of the fence that ran past the neighbor's driveway to look at the person who would come shuffling by soon. Unbeknownst to us, the family had now started sharing ghost stories around the fire, and our sudden disappearance, reappearance, and alarmed state truly terrified them. At this point, the only lighting we had came from the fire, about 30 feet from the neighbor's driveway. The pitch black and proximity of my entire family to this man I can only describe as the night whisperer set me on edge. My brother and I were still standing near the fence, staring in the direction where the night whisperer should appear and allowing our eyes to adjust to the darkness to see him better. My girlfriend got worried when she saw me staring off into the darkness and came to ask if I was okay, but my focus remained on the direction that the night whisperer might be coming from. Suddenly, I could see the night whisperer's silhouette, shuffling back and forth down the neighbor's long driveway, not 10 feet from us. My brother and I quickly turned on the flashlights on our phones and pointed it in the night whisperer's direction. Seeing that our lights went on, my family suddenly became quiet and stood up, ready to find out what was wrong. Our phone flashlights fully illuminated the night whisperer's silhouette and the path. He appeared to be wearing a large, dark hoodie and dark pants, but the hood was pulled up so that we couldn't see his face. The combination of the bright flashlights and the once talkative but now silent family would surely startle any normal person on a nightly walk. However, the night whisperer just continued to whisper and shuffle back and forth, seemingly not noticing our silence or bright lights. One of us called out, "Hello," but I was too focused on the night whisperer to remember who called out. Dead silence, save for the sounds of mumbling and whispering from the night whisperer as he continued to shuffle down the path, unfazed by our presence and actions. The rest of the family quickly put out the campfire and hurried inside the house while my brother and I followed his path with our flashlights. Little was said as we said our goodbyes, though we all knew that we experienced something not quite right. For the rest of our stay, we made sure that all of the doors and windows were closed and locked before going to sleep. Not all nightmares end when you wake up. Sometimes, they follow you. This next story is titled "Freaky Demon Lady Who Latched Onto Me." It's a terrifying encounter that proves some things, once invited in, never really leave. Hey guys. I'm gonna share another scary story from my BFS haunted basement cause I just remembered this one. So if anyone saw my "I saw the devil and he was real" post, you know my boyfriend suffers from nightmares and paranormal activity, so fun. JK. This story has truly stuck with me, literally, and I love this forum so I wanted to share it. This was like the second or third time I slept over at his house. We had gotten into a fight so I went to bed early cause I was also just grumpy and tired. He came in shortly and laid beside me. I fell asleep before him. I ended up having a nightmare so I woke up. I can handle nightmares pretty good so I just went into his arms and fell back asleep. I had another nightmare but this one was different. At the time I thought I was dreaming, but now that I'm writing this I think I was in sleep paralysis or lucid dreaming, I'm not sure. I'm just gonna call it a dream cause I'm not sure what to call it, and I'll do my best to explain 'cause it's kind of odd. So in this dream I was looking down my boyfriend's stomach from where I was laying, and there was like 6 orb hole things. Some were white and some were black. Every time I looked at the white ones I felt calm, but whenever I looked at the black I would get really stressed and anxious. Something drew me to keep looking at the black orbs until I got so worked up I almost threw up. I shot up and looked over at him. I felt like something was going to hurt him and something terrible was going to happen. I started hyperventilating and dry heaving a little, so he ran and got me water to calm me down. What I saw truly terrified me when I woke up. I saw a blurred light brown figure duck fast under his bed. On his side it felt like a woman's presence, but very sinister. When the next day arrived I told him about it, and he said him and his best friend has seen her and that she always talks to him when he's in sleep paralysis. He told me she specifically targets me and says bad things about me, like how I'm the devil and how I'm sent to stray him from God. You might be like, maybe you are BF just hates you LMAO, but I'm extremely religious and have brought the both of us closer to God, so he can't make those things up and dream them 'cause of how I am with religion. Well, fast forward a few months and guess who I seen in my house. I know it's her because I get the exact same feeling I did that night, and it's the exact same blurred light brown female figure I seen in his bed. He hasn't seen her since she latched onto me as well. Whenever I see her I do the sign of the cross and she leaves me alone. Something tells me her name is Meredith, but we did some research and I think it might be Lilith from Isaiah 34 verse 14. I'm not sure though. All I know is she's a negative presence. If anyone has an idea of what she is or experienced the same thing, let me know. Also, my friend gave me sage 'cause she's indigenous and is worried ABT me LOL, and when I started seeing the spirit my sage vanished. If that's important, just through that was weird. Sometimes, the scariest stories don't come from the woods, or haunted places. They happen in the place we feel safest, our own home. This next story is called I Was Home Alone When Someone Tried to Break In. It's a chilling reminder that true horror doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes, it just turns the handle. This happened a couple years ago, and even now, I still think about it sometimes. It started slowly, just weird stuff happening around our house, but it built up into one of the scariest moments I've ever had. We live in a 3-story home, and my family tends to stay up late. One night around 3 a.m., my uncle Alex stepped outside to throw out the trash. Nothing unusual, it was a regular thing. But later, he told us that as soon as he got out there, he felt this strong sense of being watched. He looked around and saw my mom's van parked in the driveway. The darkness around it was thick, and he swore he saw someone sitting inside. The windows were tinted, so he couldn't make it out clearly, but the feeling was strong enough that it stayed with him. Around that same time, my mom started noticing weird stuff with her car. Things moved around, random items missing, and one day she found a beer bottle inside it. She knew it didn't belong to any of us. She used to leave her car unlocked, because we all trusted the neighborhood. But after that, she started locking it every time. I sleep on the 3rd floor, and my window faces the front of the house. At night, I started hearing sounds, light footsteps and a distinct clinking from outside. We have cement stairs leading up to our front porch, but a few of the steps are loose, and when someone steps on them, they make a loud, specific sound. You can't really mistake it. At first, I assumed it was my other uncle Mario, who's younger and goes out to party or club almost every night. He comes home at all hours, so late night noise wasn't weird. But something about these sounds felt different, slower, almost like whoever it was trying not to be heard. That's what started to bother me. One night, after watching a scary movie, I didn't want to sleep alone, so I made a little spot on the floor in my grandma's room. She has a security monitor with a feed showing our driveway. I glanced at it while trying to fall asleep, and I saw something that made my stomach drop. A tall man was standing at the edge of the camera's view. Just standing there. Still. Not moving. I blinked a few times, thinking maybe I was imagining it, but he didn't go away. I grabbed my phone and messaged our family group chat to ask if anyone had just gotten home, because sometimes people do come in late. But everyone responded saying they were either already inside or still out. I looked back at the monitor. He was gone. That moment stuck with me, but nothing else happened right away. Then came the day I'll never forget. It was about a month later. I had stayed home from school, and I was the only one in the house. Everyone else was at work or in class. It was a quiet afternoon, around 2 p.m. And I was just laying in bed scrolling TikTok when I heard a man's voice and the faint hum of a small engine. I looked out my window and saw a golf cart parked in our driveway, with a man in a blue shirt standing next to it. He didn't look especially threatening, but there was something about him that felt off. None of our family cars were home, and nobody was supposed to be visiting. I tried calling my mom, who works at a hospital, but she didn't answer. So I called my stepdad and asked if someone was supposed to be coming by. He said no. I told him what I saw, and his voice got serious. He told me to keep watching and to let him know if anything changed. Not long after, my mom called back. The moment I explained it to her, she said, "Call the police. Right now." So I did. I called 911 and told them everything. The dispatcher told me to hide. But before I did, I had this terrible feeling I wasn't sure if anyone had locked the doors before leaving that morning. I ran downstairs. The front door was locked. But when I got to the back, it was wide open. My heart dropped. I slammed it shut and locked it as fast as I could, but almost immediately, I heard it, the doorknob rattling, hard. Someone was trying to get in. I looked back, and I saw him. He was shirtless, tall, and definitely not the same man I had seen in the driveway. He looked skinnier, and just off. Like something wasn't right with him. He was yanking the handle like he had just missed getting in. It honestly felt like he knew I had just locked it. I turned and sprinted up the stairs, locked myself in my parents' room, and stayed on the line with the 911 dispatcher the whole time. I was shaking so hard I could barely speak. Every second felt like forever. The police arrived a few minutes later and searched the house and the property. But there was no one there. No man in a blue shirt. No shirtless guy. No signs of a break-in. Nothing. They reviewed the security footage, but it didn't show anything helpful. The man in the driveway had stayed far from the camera's center, and the back angle was too dark to catch anything clearly. Just weird movement in the edges. It was like whoever they were knew exactly where not to be seen. To this day, I still don't know who they were. Were they working together? Was one watching while the other tried to get in? Or was it two separate people who, by some terrifying coincidence, both ended up at our house? I try not to think about it too much. But sometimes I do. What if I hadn't locked that back door in time? And just a few weeks ago, I went back to visit the neighborhood. I looked down the street and saw a golf cart. Same sound. Same shape. Same look. I didn't wait around to see who was driving it. Churches and chapels are meant to be sacred places, places of peace, prayer, and protection. But what if something darker found its way inside? This next story is titled "Something Was in the Chapel." And it just might make you think twice the next time you step into an empty sanctuary. Hey y'all. Back at it with supernatural, I think, shenanigans. So, last night and tonight, a couple areas of asphalt are being slurried, re-tearing the asphalt. Last night was the ER driveway and ambulance bay. Because of this, ambulances were required to come in via the upstairs main entrance. Being security, I was posted at the main lobby desk to assist EMS and other potential patients/guests to the ER. For some context, I was alone. Staffing sucks, especially my department. The main entrance is right next to the chapel, and at the end of the hall opposite the main hallway is the lower rooms of the chapel, where priests and later OB/GYN doctors would stay overnight. That's a whole other creepy area I have stories about. The chapel is a historic building that's connected to the modern hospital. Built in 18-something. It's closed to the public because an earthquake a few years back caused damage and the risk of the balcony detaching and collapsing. Only security, maintenance, and a few choice admins are allowed access. Anywho, I'm chilling at the desk, stupidly watching Tragic Tales, Abyssal Detective, and the occasional The Paranormal Files, because I'm a very disturbed person lol. It's roughly 3:34, and there hasn't been another soul in sight for a good hour or two. I heard tapping coming from the hallway towards the chapel. Now, this could have been anything. I'm seated beside a decorative water feature, the air circulation system isn't the quietest, and from somewhere within the gift shop/pharmacy and coffee shop is a beep from an alarm system. But this was distinct tapping, like someone impatiently tapping their foot. It wasn't consistent, maybe 2 or 3 taps every few seconds. Then there was the rustling of papers. This is what pulled me away from my not-so-comfy chair. I rounded the corner, ready to throw hands, and found nobody. Absolutely nothing. I went back to the desk, but I was feeling too restless to sit, so I went out for a smoke break. I didn't want to go far from the entrance, so I sat on a bench in the little brick patio area. Out of sheer, stupid curiosity, I shined my flashlight up at the top windows of the chapel, the stained glass ones that are where the services used to be held. My flashlight is maybe a little dimmer than the sun. I can seriously blind someone with it on its highest setting. Nothing unusual, just the ornate panels depicting the apostles or whoever they are. I'm not religious anymore, definitely know nothing about Catholicism. I moved my beam to the back windows where the small corridor is behind the podium, the little area that has the hazardously narrow staircase leading down to the lower floor, and I saw movement. A shadow, but definitely human-shaped. Great, now I have to go inspect it. I've encountered homeless people who've entered through the crawlspace below the chapel, so there was no way in hell I was going alone. I called my big bro in ICU who loves getting involved with security affairs. Big dude, 6 feet 2 inches maybe, somewhere between 200 to 220 pounds of very little fat and mainly muscle. Instant yes, he meets me in the main lobby. We go into the chapel through the lower floor to walk through the rooms and exit through the congregation area. We don't find anything in the lower area. As we're walking through the rows of pews upstairs, we both start to notice something, fresh prints in the distance on the pews. Like, butt cheeks and hand prints. Then we hear the tapping. It's a bit muffled, the floor has thin carpeting on it. But it's enough to scare even Big Bro. We leave immediately, and I lock the doors behind us. I've never seen Big Bro scared like that, he's usually so gung-ho about stuff. I don't think I'll ever go in there by myself again, and I highly doubt Big Bro will return even in the daylight. I really wish I could post pics, but sadly, I cannot. They were very distinct. Thankfully, last night is the only night I had to be up in the main lobby. I think I'll spend tonight in the ER where my worst fears are getting beaten up by the drunks and druggies. There's nothing quite like the feeling of safety in your own room. But what happens when that sense of safety is shattered, when someone enters without your knowledge, without your permission? This next story is called Someone Broke Into My Room While I Was in the Bathroom. And it's a chilling reminder that even the most familiar places can become terrifying in an instant. One night I went to the bathroom because I was about to head to sleep, everyone else was already asleep, and my family confirmed that this morning, but I heard someone open my door and step in my room. I didn't hear them leave. I was scared shitless, so I stood in my bathroom waiting to see if I maybe saw a face or something, or if I heard a gunshot, or any sign to call the police, but nothing. I was in my mom's bathroom so I knew I had to run and wake her up. Then I heard a chain. Like the rustling of a chain. And I fucking almost vomited right there and then, so I bolted out the door and ran and woke up my mom. I told her everything and she went pale. We were both shaking, it was pitch black, silent. My mom went to go check the house, so I stood alone in her room. I picked up the first thing I saw for defense, a Russian nesting doll, and gripped that thing ready to fling it at anyone who came near. Then I heard a footstep. Luckily my mom soon came back, but I was paranoid, so I went in with my dad, who assured me we were fine and that it was just the neighborhood foxes barking or something, since we live next to a deep forest. But I kept swearing that I heard a person. All my family denies it wasn't them. The next morning I was alive, thank God, so I went to my room to make sure my stuff was still in there, and I almost shit myself. The plant pot on my windowsill, and majority of the other stuff that was on it, was spilled all over my bed, including the mud from inside the plant pot. My windows were open. I screamed for my parents, paranoid, crying. They said the wind knocked it down, but I explained my windows were only ajar, like not even really open, and they were now almost half open. And broken, like someone had pried them open. We called the cops, who said that they had already been dispatched to my neighborhood this morning, holy shit, and that we were lucky that they arrived. They checked the house, and swabbed the windows that we think the intruder escaped from. Sure enough, they had other DNA on it that matched no one in our houses. So now I'm sitting here, home alone, with my dog, reminiscing this day, because what if they come back? And what if I'm in my room this time? Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones hiding the darkest secrets. This next story begins with a simple job offer. A child asked to clean a basement. But what he found down there would leave scars that go far beyond fear. The story is called, I Was 12 When My Godfather Offered Me Money to Clean His Basement. I should have said no. Let's begin. I've never shared this before publicly, but I need to. Because even as an adult, I still carry fear, not of all white people, but especially ones who act like a man I knew as a child. My godfather, Lee. I was born in Georgia. My mother was 16, my father 36. Legal, but not right. She left him when I was 1 because he was abusive. He never hit me, but he was emotionally cold and dishonest. He never told me he loved me. But he did love telling stories. One story he repeated often was how he met my godfather, Lee, at a gas station in the early 1980s. Lee, a white man, called him a racial slur. Later that night, my dad saved him from being robbed at gunpoint. From that moment on, Lee said my dad was different and became his friend. Eventually, business partner. My dad even asked Lee to be my godfather. When I was 12, I finally got to visit my dad for the summer. One night, Lee offered me cash to clean his basement. I said yes. But the moment I walked down there, I knew something was wrong. My skin prickled. The air felt thick. At the bottom of the stairs was a mannequin in full KKK robes. The walls were covered in Confederate flags, nooses, lynching memorabilia, and white power signs. I froze. Lee appeared out of nowhere and said, smiling, "That room's off limits. Don't tell your daddy. He knows, but it don't need to be remembered." I left immediately. Told my dad I was sick and wanted to go home early. He didn't ask questions. Just drove me back. Years later, I brought it up. My dad just said, sometimes a man's got ghosts. As long as they don't haunt you, you let 'em be. But they do haunt me. I still get nervous around certain white men. The ones who smile too fast. Who say things like, "You're not like the others." Who carry themselves the way Lee did, fake calm, polite, but full of something darker. And I'll be honest, this experience damaged my trust in men overall, including black men. Because my own father handed me to a man he knew kept hate in his basement, then told me to be quiet about it. I don't hate all white people. And I don't hate all men. But fear? It learned its shape early. And it hasn't left me. It has affected my everyday life and how I view white people in general. How do I reverse this? I'm 36 and terrified of white people. I can't get those images out my head. Which story scared you the most? Let us know down in the comments. And if something like this has ever happened to you, don't be afraid to share it. You might not be alone. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and type "I believe" in the comments if you think these stories are more than just coincidence.